So we'll start our January 7th meeting of 2021. I'll start with a roll call. Tom Bukovitz.
Here.
John Decker.
Present.
Tim DeBrio, Chair, is present. Sean Green.
Present.
Sandra Jones.
Yes.
Michelle King.
Here.
Michael Keister.
Yes.
Tom LeVay is going to be in at 7. Carol Martin has not joined yet. John Moran has not joined. And Jim Stevens.
Here.
Okay, so I know I sent everyone the agenda. I thought what we could do to start is we have a fairly light agenda tonight, and I know most of you know our schedule for next week. We have the public hearing on Tuesday for the school budget, and then on Thursday we have the public hearing for the town budget, and then in between there, sandwiched between on Wednesday, is the public hearing for the school bond as well. So if you're able to attend that, it's not something that's required of the budget committee, but if you want to attend that, you could. John Moran's joining now. But first, I wanted to get started by introducing our new chief of police, Chief Woodman. And I know she has joined us, and she wanted to take just a couple of minutes to introduce herself to the budget committee. Mr. Sterndale had said she doesn't really have any items to address specifically in the budget, since most of those items were presented before she became chief. But next year she might want to have some requests. So welcome and congratulations, Chief Woodman, on your new position. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my video to play too. I don't know if you want to see me too. So I will apologize right at the beginning. The Zoom thing is very new to me. So I'm speaking over the air and you can't see me. But again, I'm Fawn Woodman. I'm the new police chief in Nottingham. I'm excited to meet you guys. I can't see you all on one screen too. Maybe I can have somebody help me figure that out someday. But yeah, so I've been in Nottingham for 13 years. I'm excited. I'm anxious. If there's any questions that you have for me, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm available to you guys whenever you need me. Yeah, that's about all I have.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief Woodman?
No questions, but I'm excited that she got the position, and I'm, really happy for the community that she is where she is. So it's exciting. Welcome. Well, you've been here, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Michelle. Yeah, I've lived in Nottingham. This is probably going on my 6th year, so I'm a resident as well. I'm excited about that. So yeah, I'm excited. That's all I have to say.
We're excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
This is Sandra. I was on the fire rescue, and I remember that you were there doing things with the children when we had things at Christmas. And I remember one time my partner and I got scammed, and we came down and talked to you about it. And the only thing that horrified with you was we told the folks we weren't going to be home over Christmas.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's so weird, before I was a police officer, you don't usually think of that stuff. Honestly, you're just going through your life and you don't. And then, as soon as I became a police officer like 15 years ago, when my family tells me things, I'm like, don't tell me that. That's not good. That's not good at all. And then they're like, you're paranoid. I'm like, no, things happen. But I do remember you. I remember that because I remember being like, why would you tell people that?
We were in the moment of being totally ridiculously stupidly innocent.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and there's no
shame in that. A reasonable check. When they finally sent them, there were 2 checks that were worth over $1,000 for something he was selling for $350. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
Not so good.
Yeah, no, I'm glad everything worked out. And like I said, it's nice to know. I see familiar faces. I can't necessarily put the name with you guys, but you all look familiar to me, to be honest. So that's great.
In a good way, right?
In a very good way, yes. I'm happy to see you guys, in all honesty.
I have a budget committee kind of question for you.
Sure.
Is there anything about the budget that was left for you that you wish were changed?
No, actually, and I will say this, Gunnar Foss did that job for many years. He left me, in a good position, honestly, with the budget. I worked on it for a couple of years with him, to be honest with you, just so he could, so I knew what was going on. But I can't think of anything that the department needs that we're lacking or anything like that. Like I said, Gunnar really did. He really cared, obviously, about the town and about the department. And you guys are in good hands, and I was left really in good hands.
That's great to hear.
Good-
I was glad
good
to hear that you got picked. I heard maybe you want to get like body cameras or something.
Yeah, so I will. It's not that I want to. I'll be honest with you. It's not that I want to get them. I think that that's probably where we're going. Honestly, in the United States and New Hampshire and in the town and everything. We're not there yet, and it's pricey. I know that there are, a lot of different ways to go about it. On Thursday, I'm actually meeting with a representative from Motorola just to go over, kind of like in-car cameras, just to get information, how it works, how you store the information, price ranges, stuff like that. Like I said, it's not that I want them. It's a hassle. I hate to say that. It really is. And
Oh, well, I
we
think
really-
they're a good idea. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it is. I think it really. I hate to say this, it protects us a lot, because it's right there on video or or an audio, and then you can see what really happened. Like you said, it is pricey though. It is, and it's time consuming to be able to store the data. Somebody has to be in charge of that and all that. I think there's more pros than cons though. I do believe that for liability and everything else. So
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can't get a discount on our town liability policy, because I really think that would help with frivolous lawsuits and stuff.
yeah, probably. You're absolutely
Not that I've
right.
ever heard of anybody suing the Nottingham police, but you never
I have to say this, and I'm going to knock on wood, and I say this with all due sincerity. We have a great department. I don't get a lot of citizens' complaints for the officers that we have, and I think that is so huge, because we all really do care. Over half the department lives in town, and so we're community caretakers, and we're not trying to go out there and give somebody a hard time. We're going to enforce the law, but like I said, we're very respectful. So I think that's huge. I've heard horror stories with other departments, and I just don't have that department, and I'm very lucky. So
I think we're very, very fortunate to have someone who has been on the force for as long as you have. Or it is a 6-year, you say, resident in the town. So you know us. You don't.
Yes.
You don't need to learn anything about the Nottingham Police Department. You know where you want to go with it, what kind of changes you want to make, and you know who we are.
absolutely. And yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that you see that. Obviously I'm never going to make everybody happy, but certainly at least I can say this, most everybody knows me. I'm a familiar name and face, and I
Yes,
think
you
that's
are.
valuable.
It's very, very valuable. It's
Yeah.
incredibly valuable.
Yep, I'm excited.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Fawn? Well, Chief Woodman, again, welcome. And I'm sure we'll be working closely with you next year as you think about maybe some of the items you'd like to add to your budget for 2022. But if you do have any questions through the 2021 budget process of the town the public hearing next week and the deliberatives, please don't hesitate to reach out to the committee. But again, welcome. And I know the rest of the community will give you a warm welcome as well.
Awesome. Like you said, I appreciate it, guys. I think this year is new for everybody, right? This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. No town meeting, so to speak. And, yeah, exactly. No, I know how to get a hold of you guys. That's for sure. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Fawn.
I'm going to stay and watch, but I'm definitely going to unmute myself. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so I did send out to everyone the draft warrant articles. I sent out an updated or forwarded on the estimated tax impact to include the numbers from this year's, or I'm sorry, the 2022 budget. But just to clarify what the warrant articles are, and we'll be reviewing the ones for the school as well. But the two budgets for the town and the school have already been presented to us. And the line items for each budget, that's what the each governing body can spend, and the town votes to approve those expenditures and amounts. The warrant articles are more special one-time expenses for, well, the financial impact ones are more one-time expenditures for next year. And usually you can see the dollar amounts are fairly large. And they also sometimes include shifting money between accounts, such as between capital reserves, and then moving it into a specific account, like for highway equipment. So the town does have to authorize those types of movements of funds. And so that's what the warrant articles do, is they request specifically to move funds from an operating account, from the capital reserve account into an operating account, or to increase expenditures. And you'll see that with a number of the items here that will actually increase the budget for the year. So our role is to kind of review those warrant articles with Mr. Sterndale this evening. And I know Sean McLean, you're here as well, because I know a few of the items are for highway equipment. So I think we felt it would be important to hear from you with your specific requests for some of the highway equipment replacements. But again, just to stress, the warrant article items that are in here, they are not items that are actually in the budget that we have reviewed. So does anybody have any questions before we move on to the warrant articles? No? Okay. Perfect. Well, Mr. Sterndale, I will pass it along to you to review the warrant articles and the tax impact.
Okay, perhaps we can jump around a little bit and we'll do the ones that are related to Public Works first with Sean, and then we can loop back around, if that's all right. If you don't mind me bouncing around, we can let Sean get back to his life earlier than he would otherwise. The warrant thus far, this is what you're looking at is a draft. The select board has has been involved with shaping this all along, and is going to finalize it in all likelihood on Monday. But they do still have time to adjust it and make some decisions on it. So you're looking at what is a very late draft, but it's really still in the board's court to finalize. A couple of things in particular are up for decision with the select board, and those relate mainly to how we're going to pay for a couple of things. So with Public Works, why don't we focus on Articles 6, 10, 11, and 12. And Sean, unmute yourself and jump in when
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay. When I stray too far or need more clarification. Article number 6 is a repeat from last year. We were awarded a grant to conduct a survey and inventory of our stormwater management assets. Those are essentially culverts in Nottingham, and other towns have much more complex stormwater operations. We have some cisterns, things like that, but it's relatively simple beyond culverts and ditches. The state grant will allow us to hire an engineer to fully survey the location, construction, condition, size, other specifications of things like culverts. Believe it or not, we don't have a full knowledge of where all of those things are underneath our roads and road shoulders. There's culverts in places that our guys are at all the time working on them, and there's culverts in places that surprise us sometimes. Sean, I don't know if you feel like you know where they all are yet. But,
No, yeah, that's been a thing. Like to repeat what Chris said. Yeah, we know where some are. We find new ones all the time. We find existing conditions are failed a lot of times. There's a lot of old metal still out there and things of that. We don't have a mapping system, and what this will do is create a GIS program and actually have an asset management program to track and store all the information of when we do replacements and things of that nature. So we have data moving forward for new people coming in, and they don't have to go back to square one and start all over again and rewrite the book.
Yeah, it'll allow us to look down the road. Sorry for that choice of words, but to plan ahead when we're working on a road or expecting to do surface work on a road, we can maybe plan the subsurface work a little better. Time that work at the right time, and it'll map it all for us. It'll integrate with the other mapping things that we've been working on, and will actually evolve into a workflow management system and things like trouble tickets and help in scheduling and running the department, keeping track of where we're doing work, where we're spending our time and money. What the engineer is going to build for us, we'll do all of those things eventually, and train our people how to do it. Train our people how to take GIS locations in the field. Give us a couple pieces of hardware to do that with. So all of that for $30,000 is really quite a good deal, and we're actually not going to even pay the $30,000. The grant is set up as a loan forgiveness program with the state, so we borrow the money or pretend to borrow the money, pay the engineer, can finish the work, and then get reimbursed for the $30,000. So since it's structured as a loan like that, it needs special approval. But if we just finish the project as we've outlined it, the state will forgive that principal. So there really won't be much of a cost to us at all. There'll be a small first year interest payment or something, $500. But if we complete the work, the loan will be forgiven, and we will just take the inventory and use it and update it. We'll learn how to update it and keep it going out into the future for virtually no cost. So we put this on the warrant last year and didn't do a good enough job of explaining what we were up to, and dealt with some stuff in the town meeting that kind of surprised us. This felt like a slam dunk, and we really didn't put much effort into educating people about it, or it felt like a freebie, but it was not received as such. So we'll have to do a little bit better job of making a case for this. It doesn't really cost us anything, but we still have to explain it better. And we'll work on that between now and town meeting, and hopefully it'll get approved. Questions on that?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as asked, because I do remember at town meeting it was voted down. And I guess one of the biggest reasons somebody had brought up was that UNH had done a study that was available for free as well, that was the same information. But I guess explaining the difference between the UNH study and what this is would be important.
We've yet to figure out what data UNH has that we don't.
It would probably be on Granite. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I am, and I've looked, and nobody's ever inventoried where all the old culverts are in Nottingham. John Fernald had it in his head, but we're pretty confident that nobody's ever gone out with GIS tracking and found all of those things. We've yet to find it in the UNH data ourselves and looked at Granite. It just doesn't seem to exist. So I don't know what that was referring to at town meeting, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't this level of detail. There's probably that level of detail for state assets and state highways. I would fully expect the state to have this kind of information on what's underneath 152 and 4 and 156. And that's probably readily available at the DOT. But this is on town roads, and nobody's had any interest in that information but us. So,
as far as the grant's concerned, do you have a timeline of when they would pay that money back or forgive that loan?
It'll take us, depending on the work schedule, it'll take us about a year to do the work, depending on time of year when we start. Sean, you've been through this once before. It'll take about a year start to finish, right?
Yeah, correct. To go out and actually physically inventory the whole town, identify the drainage swales, the culverts, the wetlands, the way where they're distributing to, things like that. It's a year.
Yeah. So it'll be a year until they forgive that that principle. And we're confident we can get it done, and just, carry that cost for the year is really not a worry.
Is it
So-
100% guarantee that they're going to forgive this loan?
Yes, if we've designed a scope of the project that's been approved by them. All we have to do is deliver on that scope. And this is a common, this program is widely used. We're actually one of the first to win an award for stormwater management without a
Closed drainage system.
with or without a closed system.
Yes, we're an open drainage system. We're not a closed drainage system. This grant was to track a lot of what they call the MS4 and the silt and the catch basins. And we were fortunate enough in Nottingham to, I guess, become the beta for the state and be the first one to have an open drainage system that they're going to let award the grant to us.
What is the difference? What is a closed drainage system?
The closed drainage systems consist of manholes, catch basins, and things of that. They structures that are in the ground
Gotcha.
and that dump into. They're concerned with the attributes that it dumps into, such as rivers and lakes. And Nottingham contributes to the Lamprey watershed, which is a critical environmental body of water.
So that brings up the question of, does this open the town up to additional liabilities or responsibilities with concerns with in regards to stormwater management? Because, I mean, you can think to like the Great Bay, they're concerned about nitrogen or something in there, and they put the EPA, the federal departments come in and they put mandates on, say, the water treatment centers in Dover and Rochester and stuff, and they say, you have to reduce the amount of these pollutants or nutrients or whatnot that get discharged into the bay. Is there any chance that this could come back and bite us? And
I don't see that
information.
No, I don't see that. What they're getting at with those municipalities is that they're directly dumping treated wastewater into the water, and that's what's causing the nitrogen spikes, and that's what they're going after.
Right, but there could also be nitrogen runoff from farming fertilizers and things like that.
I think that would have already been tracked back if that was a concern in Nottingham.
Yeah, I think the private sources that you're seeing involved in, all the towns with sewage systems around Great Bay are caught up in that thing you're talking about, Tom. It's the towns themselves that are targeting those what do they call them? Non-point, the fertilizers and those things. That's the towns that are looking to those to ease the burdens on their wastewater treatment centers. It's not the feds going after people in their lawns.
Sure, but it's a federal decision that then filters down to action at the local level and mandates on people.
Yep.
I know in Pennsylvania, my parents' house, the EPA or somebody decided there was too much stuff getting into the Chesapeake Bay, and so work your way all the way up to the Susquehanna River to central Pennsylvania, and everyone in town was required to pay to dig up the sewer line between their house and the center of the street and have it replaced at their own expense, which is massive if you consider an entire town having to do that.
Right, all around it relates to a sewage system. Of course, it's a public sewage system. That's that's the root of the problem. I think the benefit of using what we learned from this system to better manage the flow of stormwater will outweigh the risk of some indirect future cost.
And we do end up with equipment. You say it's going to be used to buy some
like
equipment.
Got a laptop, couple of iPads, things of that nature, which we'll be able to take out in the field. Actually be able to create work orders in the field. We'll be able to take pictures and plug in GPS coordinates and stuff to update that asset, that program in the field.
So what happens if we don't find all the culverts?
Well, in the first initial year, is that what you're referring to?
Well, I guess for the report that gets us our money back.
You will find the majority of it. Yes, there may be, and there probably will be in a time that we don't find everyone. But as they pop up, we have the ability to add them back into the database.
And the bean counter in Concord doesn't know where they are either. So if we miss one, they're not going to know it either. I guess.
Yeah.
is-
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we would, that we're basically, if we complete the job, what does complete mean, I guess?
We could show you the scope. It's an inventory with that is mapped, GIS mapped, and there's certain elements that are mapped, and those are all listed. And then there's certain training sessions that the engineer does with our staff in terms of maintaining and updating that information. Those are the two big pieces in the scope of work.
Also, just curious, does it include any of the private roads or just the public roads?
I think it's just public,
Yeah, just the town road.
just the class 5 roads and probably not even the class 6 roads, right, Sean? And we probably don't even have any.
I can get back to you on that, John, get some clarification. I mean, I wouldn't say it wouldn't be out of the question to be able to just to do everything. I mean, it would be advantageous. It would be a good thing for everybody, I guess. So we can go either way. I have to look into it more.
And that may be something we follow up with later after the initial year.
Yes. And like I said, that can all go back too after we have it and we've been awarded the money back in the grant that we do put those assets in that we find on the, say, an emergency lane or something into the program ourselves.
All right, thank you.
Chris, is this a thing where there's a set number of these awards or money that's been appropriated in Concord for this? Or is it something where, we're applying for it, it becomes new spending?
No, it's a piece of a pool of money that gets, the pool is established and then it is divided up amongst projects and among the municipalities and probably state agencies. So it's, we are competing for pieces of a pie that is already established. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Yeah, no, I wanted to know if, if we do this, does that increase the state's budget? Or if we don't do it, does it decrease the state's budget? But it sounds like it's already been appropriated.
Yes, been appropriated. If we don't do it, it goes to somebody else's project.
I was surprised it was actually still available for this
Yeah,
year.
the state has been kind and kind of keeping it open for us after not getting the authorization last year.
Yeah, as you
They're
said,
interested in
Pay
getting
for
work
it
done too.
anyway. If we don't do it, we pay for it through our state taxes anyway, and we do pay state taxes, whether they're listed as such or not.
and as you said, Chris, the Lamprey watershed is very important to the state.
Yep. Anything else on stormwater asset management, Article number 6? Shall we move along? All right, let's talk Article 10. That's highway road reconstruction and maintenance. This has historically been where we've put our biggest road project of the year. And this warrant article, we've had a warrant article of 200,000 or 300,000 each year for a very long time. Oftentimes it's reconstructing a road. We did piece of Ledge Farm within a warrant article a couple of years ago. We did Lakeview. We did Little River. We've done, I'm trying to think of what else in my time here, but it's typically reconstruction of asphalt roads. We shrunk this, or we pulled this out last year at the last minute. So this amount was not appropriated last year. We came into town meeting surprised by the cost of Ledge Farm and looking for ways to save money, not knowing what the pandemic was going to do to the budget. So we did not have, we tabled this last year. And what we'd like to do this year is not so much reconstruction as catching up on other maintenance of our asphalt roads. We have, with taking a year off and with being consumed with Ledge Farm the year before, we're a little behind where we want to be on asphalt overlay and crack sealing. We've got a multi-year plan laid out on how we want to maintain those roads. Sean, what roads are you targeting next year with this
We're
money?
gonna finish up with our overlays from the base jobs that we did from last year. So the top coats will go on Fort Hill Road, Swan, Nottingham, Robin Hood, and Church Street overlay. Then we will jump back into the 2021's year for various amounts of different types of work. We have some overlay on Deerfield Road that we're looking at, McCrillis Road, and Priest Road as it's laid out on the paving plan. There's quite a bit on there in different things. Winter also dictates and changes up the plan based on deterioration of roads. I'm watching a couple of roads. Mitchell Road is starting to deteriorate faster than it's set up in the plan. So we may have to, move around based on what's going on after the winter. Smoke Street's another one that's showing failure in specific areas that should be addressed sooner than later based on traffic volumes.
Yeah, so we are trying to lay out the multi-year plan that will allow us to maintain our asphalt at about this level of spending each year, and we think we can do that if we follow the plan, think about it long enough in advance, and keep, rather than bouncing around on the appropriation. If we can keep it at about this level, the road surface management program that we're using, we feel like we can keep up, unless there's dramatic changes in traffic patterns or truck things or something like that. So this is really just maintaining our asphalt roads. We will have other major projects on the horizon, paving some dirt. Ledge Farm's still on the top of our list. It's just really expensive. And as Sean mentioned, the asphalt part of Mitchell is deteriorating, and we've got the remainder of Mitchell that we'd like to pave. And then we have some bridges and big culverts that are on the horizon as well. So it's going to take a continuous effort and probably some bigger appropriations in the future to tackle those culverts and bridges. Questions on that? Okay. Article 11. This is one of our capital reserve funds for highway vehicles. We have consistently added $100,000 to this reserve fund each year. Right now, the balance is around 140. We, depending on Article 11, to pay for number 12, we've got 140 in the bank, and we need to add another 100 to get to the 240 to buy a dump truck, which is Article number 12, which will then pretty well empty that reserve fund. The reserve fund will be fine depending on what we do around a road grader in the future, and what we do with the front end loader also later in the warrant. So a lot going on in the short term with equipment. Sean, why don't you talk about the dump truck purchase, what we're letting go of, and
Sure. Yeah, we're looking at, we're requesting to replace the 2006 10-wheel International dump truck with a plow, wing, and sander. This is a frontline plow truck that's been in service since 2006, as I said, with approximately 225,000 miles on it. The truck is plowed for approximately 15 winters and has an escalating maintenance cost with it. The truck is not reliable. There's something that goes wrong every storm. It's created such an oil leak now that's going on, and it's an extensive motor job. And some of the oil particles are circulating through the cold air vent system, and getting into the cab. We're managing and everything's good there, but these are the problems that are going on. This past summer, the truck driving back from Rochester, Brox's sand and gravel pit, the centers of the rear, one of the set of the rear dualies broke. I mean, the bolts in the center of the wheel just broke. And things of that nature. It doesn't make it through one storm without some sort of repair being needed, and then it's down and out. So it's a very frustrating truck, to say the least, and it's a time for a replacement. And we're looking to purchase a similar vehicle as we did in 2019, another Mack 10-wheel dump truck, plow, wing, and sander.
And that'll make a full fleet of similar Mack trucks.
Yes, we'll have 3 Mack 10-wheelers and 1 Mack 6-wheeler. We'll have all Mack trucks.
Are you just going to keep the dump truck that's giving you problems now, or are you going to try to do something with that after you purchase, if you get, the money to purchase it?
I didn't hear you. Sorry, Michelle.
I was just asking what you were going to do with the 2006 10-wheel if you get to purchase a new one.
Yeah, that'll be either traded or auction, whichever we feel that we can get the best for. We're going to look at either one. Either one's it's a dice roll on what we get for money either way, because the sealed bid thing is, you have no clue going into it.
Okay.
It does have some trade value. So I think we may do all right with it, and the 240,000 we won't fully expend.
Yeah.
You interested in it, Michelle?
No.
We wouldn't do that to you. No,
we have 2 plow trucks, and they give us the same problem you're having now, so we're good on that. Thanks.
We wouldn't do that to you with this truck.
Thank you.
That Sean comes in and curses that thing after every storm. I just tell him to keep holding on.
Every storm, if something will go wrong, it does.
John, is that truck an item on the capital reserve schedule now?
Yes, it is on the capital reserve schedule.
Was it slated to come up this year or further out?
I actually thought it was last year.
Okay.
Chris, do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. We honestly, Michael, we shuffle those around every year. It's a truck has been in this generation in the plan. With this international that we're going to let go of, a couple of years ago we put some money into it. We put a new dump body on it, and we spent some other money on it thinking that we were going to get more time out of it, and that was not the right decision. We know now. So this truck replacement has moved around a little bit in the CIP plan. It's been bounced around with the loader and the grader, but it's been on our radar for a while.
And you said there was 140K in the capital reserve fund now?
Yeah, we got 140 in it now, and then we asked to add 100 and then take out the 240.
Okay, so it'll zero out that capital
Right.
reserve fund.
Yep.
Got it. The capital reserve fund was one that was deferred last year. We did not contribute last year.
No, I think we put less in it. We didn't zero it out. We may have put half as much in it as we typically did. I don't think it was zeroed out.
Thanks.
All right. Nothing else on the truck. Let's move down to Article 15, which is a front-end loader purchase. This one we have modeled a couple different ways. One is a lease purchase, and one as just a straight-out purchase. The staff has suggested to the board that we just buy it outright with funds from the fund balance as a way to avoid the lease payments over the next 5 years or so and save the interest costs. This would replace our existing one. Sean, why don't you take us through
Yeah.
existing replacement.
Sure, I'm requesting to replace our 2009 Komatsu front-end loader with approximately over 10,000 hours on it of runtime. The loader is a frontline workhorse. It works year-round. It loads all the sanders of trucks, and it also zips around the town doing various other jobs, from removing trees, back dragging a road, things of that nature. It is a very critical piece of equipment during snow removal, as I said, not just so as for loading the trucks, but for removing snow in parking lots, the school, town hall, things of that nature. The loader is been having escalated maintenance cost and is beginning to become tired. It's got, as I said, rust and stuff, and the reliability is a concern. We've had some electrical issues go on with it over the last year and a half. We had a little fire in it because of the air conditioning condenser that caught on fire while it was on the pit working in the summer. So that's what I'm asking.
A little fire, nothing to worry about.
Yeah. The cost on this vehicle is $181,000.
Questions on loader? Would do the same. We would trade or sell the existing one, Sean? That's the plan, right?
Yeah, right now, I believe it has a trade-in value from when I was talking to one of the dealers between $15,000 and $20,000.
What's the, does that cost include any spare parts you need to get for the new loader or anything to have on hand, or are those already accounted for in the budget?
Spare part, additional implements to go on to the loader, are you asking?
Either equipment or spare parts that might be different from any existing spares you might have from the loader.
Be just a spare tire. The implements that we use is the forks. We're going to keep the forks that we have, and the quick coupler that goes on the new loader will be made to fit what the implements that we have now.
And the dump truck, I think Gene had a question. He was wondering if it was going to be a new plow. I'm assuming it's a new plow. And then would you be able to reuse the sander or anything on that?
The sander is, the age of that sander is approximately the same age as the truck. That we were just going with all new equipment.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.
Says zero tax impact because it's going to be paid out of an unassigned fund. Is that the same fund as the dump truck?
No, the dump truck shows no tax impact because the funds would come from the Capital Reserve Fund, CRF. So you see it on Article 11, there is a tax impact to add to the Capital Reserve Fund, but there is no tax impact to take money out of it. So that's why you see 11 has an impact and 12 does not. And then for this article, if the Board of Selectmen sticks with the paying for it with fund balance concept, there will be no tax impact there either because it's coming out of the unassigned fund balance. If they want to pay for it another way, there will be a tax impact.
So this unassigned fund balance is just some random fund that we have money in?
No, the unassigned fund balance is a few things. It is our operating cash, and it is our rainy day fund, for lack of a better word. Anytime we have a surplus at year end or surprise revenue, it falls to this fund balance. The fund balance is what allows us to get through the year between property tax billings. So right now it's at 1.4 million, I think. And we're going to add quite a bit to it at the end of 2020. The year we just ended, we had a budget surplus. We had unspent funds in the budget, and we had revenues that we were not anticipating. So we're going to see a pretty sizable move in our unassigned fund balance. So we're suggesting to the board that they use some of that to reduce the tax impact with a couple of these warrant articles. They're going to.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How does that work? You said that there were a couple different options to either buy it outright from that fund or to lease it.
Yep.
Is that the decision that will be made before the warrant article is finalized for town vote?
Yes.
Be clarified there. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's up to the select board on how they propose it. So you'll have that before your public hearing next week. We'll know what the select board wants to propose there. If it's a straight out purchase, it'll be a bigger tax impact next year. If it's a lease purchase, it will be a smaller tax impact over the next 5 years. Or if it is a purchase from the fund balance, there is no tax impact at all.
Thank you.
And I just want to clarify, because I know we had discussion last year about zero tax impact and some of these items where money, it's coming from someplace, and whether or not that was actually a tax impact. And I did ask the question at our budget workshop in September to get clarification on that, and they did confirm that you don't, on the warrant articles, you do not put that there's a tax impact unless in that tax year money is going to be appropriated from taxpayer money for those items.
Right. Yes, you could just use the money from the fund balance to offset taxes, and use the money to reduce taxes. So you're giving up an opportunity to reduce taxes in some other way by spending it on things like this. So there's always a tax impact to everything we do, and sometimes it's just more visible. In this case, it doesn't look like there is. Anything else on front-end loader, fund balance, public works in general? Is there anything you want to ask Sean while he's here? Or do you want to head back earlier in the warrant and look at the other warrant articles?
There's another question from Jean Reed from public comment, asking if the fund balance is within suggested guidelines. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sterndale, but that goes back to the select board or the school board, whoever's divvying that money out of the unassigned fund balance. Is that correct? Generally the school district does not have this kind of fund balance. They have a couple of reserves that they can retain each year, but for the most part, their surpluses revert right to offsetting taxes. The town is different. The town can build a fund balance in any way it wants. The way that is measured, it's measured in raw dollars, and like I said, last year was about 1.4 million. It's also measured as a percentage of your total appropriations, and there's a suggested range of, if you look at the total appropriations of the town and the school, you put those two together, that's the potential cash burden for the town. The town is the tax collector for the school district. So you put those two numbers together, and the fund balance should be between 8 and ideally between 8 and 14% of that number. We're at about 8.5%, 9% of that in 2020, and we're going to move up within that range at the end of 2020. So the short answer to the question is yes, we are within that range, and using any of these funds in this manner as we're considering right now, we still will be within that range even after taking that money out. Thank you.
Roll back to earlier warrant articles. Say goodnight to Sean.
Sean, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. And the Farmer's Almanac says you're in for a rough 45 days. So
yes, I see that we had a polar vortex split.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Sean's our amateur meteorologist on the town staff as well. So.
That's right. Amateur is the key word. Take
Thanks,
care,
Sean.
guys.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
All right. Let's roll back and just touch on some of these other warrant articles. A lot of them are routine. You've seen them all before. Article 7, ambulance operations. We have a fund for ambulance operations where we take billings from ambulance services, put it in a special fund and use that fund to pay for the ambulance itself, the supplies, the fuel, and everything else it takes to run the ambulance except for the people. And in order to spend that money each year, we have to have a warrant article that gets the town's approval to take money out of that fund. So we see that article every year. This year, the fire chief thinks it's going to take about $26,000 out of that fund to pay for ambulance operations. I'm just going to talk until you interrupt me, if that's okay, with these ones we've seen before. Article 8, we have a capital reserve fund for fire vehicles. This is one we pulled back on last year. Again, looking at the long-term plan for fire vehicles, and this fund actually covers our breathing apparatus now as well. If we keep the deposits running at about this level, we think we can maintain the breathing apparatus and the fleet of trucks without real big spikes in the tax rate. We have no fire vehicles in the capital improvement plan for the next 6 years anyway. We've just purchased a truck in the last couple of years, so we're early in that cycle, and the fleet is in good shape. So we keep this at this level, we should be good for quite a while. Article 9, this is proposed by the chief to renovate the mezzanine in the fire station to allow us some sleeping quarters for firefighters. We are slowly working our way toward a more expanded roster of career firefighters, different scheduling models, and we're going to need places for folks to sleep if we're doing 24-hour schedules. So this renovation will put us in a position to do that by adding some sleeping quarters up in the mezzanine. No fancy living quarters here, just some bunk rooms, changing rooms. We've got bathrooms and kitchen facilities and everything downstairs. So this is the last step before we start chasing some grants to expand our staff coverage around the clock. I'm going to keep rolling. We did 10, 11, 12. 13 is another recurring capital reserve fund. We just finished our reevaluation. It's time to start saving for the next one. This article's been around for a long time at this level, and will put us in a position to pay for our 2025 revaluation without impacting the tax rate. Article 14, those of you that have been on the budget committee for a while, remember we've been talking about trying to tune up the kitchen at the community center for a couple of years now. We'd like to redo to pull some cabinets out, redo the plumbing, put some new flooring down, repaint, and make that space a little bit more welcoming and user-friendly and durable for community groups to use. There's a lot of folks that do use it, and probably more would if it was a little younger, a little more attractive. So this is a standalone one-time thing. This is also something that the staff has proposed taking out of the fund balance rather than taxation.
I have a question on that one. I
Yep.
had asked either yourself, Chris, or John previously. There's some maintenance and safety issues around the exterior of the building, their walkways and disrepair and so forth. That it sounds like the issue was getting contractors to do the work or make the repairs. And so I'm just curious with this, is there a way to prioritize the, safety repairs at that facility prior to any renovations or any sort of preventative maintenance repairs prior to a renovation? I mean, I think all of it's good stuff. I just would be curious how we could get those other things accomplished as well.
I think we can do both. The more minor stuff is just it's harder to find somebody to do it. If we had somebody that was willing to do it, I'd find the money to do it. I've got, I have budgeted funds for things like fixing walkways. This project will be kind of a standalone bid on it thing. It's obviously a bigger thing. It will draw more interest than more handyman related work. So I think we can do both. And again, if you know anybody that is interested and available, I'd love to talk with them, because I do have a list.
Okay, thanks.
Front end loader, we did Article 15. Article 16. This I don't think we've talked much about. For a long time, we've known about challenges in town around addressing. The state has guidelines around how you're supposed to number and name streets and locations in town. And we've got a long list of streets and locations that don't fit the 911 conventions. The point of the 911 consistency is that everyone responding to emergencies or delivering things can understand logically where to look for houses. And you can't really do that in a lot of places in town. You may live on a street where the numbers are funky, odds and evens on the wrong side, or all the numbers on one side being in order, and then you switch sides of the road, or there's a lot of different challenges with our addressing. Street names that sound alike. There's 5 pages of problems that they've given us. And we'd like the town to consider going through the process of renaming and numbering all those problem locations. It would be great if our emergency responders and those coming from other towns and mutual aid could count on things being where they're supposed to be, and the numbers being in logical order. I think it would probably make the people receiving deliveries would make their lives a lot easier too. I know we hear lots of problems with delivery operations not finding homes. The most egregious examples are things like roads, like multiple roads with the same name. You see that around the lake a lot, where there's little spurs of roads that all have the same name, and roads that were not created or subdivided within the last 15 or 20 years, or the numbering is really a mess. So we'd like the town to consider going through the process of changing that up. It would be, for many folks, it would mean a new address, either a new number or a new street name, which is not always a popular thing, but it's noticeably safer. This is something that our public safety folks have been supportive of. We thought about proposing it last year, but we had enough going on with revaluation and elections and things that we put it on the back burner. So we'll talk more about it between now and town meeting, but we eventually are going to need to do this, and the longer we put it off, the harder it gets. So the money would be used mainly for a staff person to help us organize the whole thing for 1 year. We think we can do it in a year, but it involves a lot of different pieces. The tax assessing world, the post office, the land use people, the emergency services people, the state. It's going to be a big project when we do decide to do it, and that's why we put it on the warrant. We're aware of the fact that it's a challenge and perhaps not enjoyable to live through an address change, but from a safety point of view, we really think we need to do it. So that's the 911 story.
Is this tied to statute or anything with our insurance or anything? I lived through this in Lee, and it was it's not an enjoyable process as
Yep.
someone who had their address changed. So I would expect a lot of negative feedback potentially. But just curious, like, what are the pros there? Are there that many missed fires or EMT responses that go awry here that warrant this?
I think there are a few anecdotes, just the ambulance going to completely the wrong part of a neighborhood. But I don't have data on, how many times a truck or a police car drove by an address because it wasn't where they thought it was going to be. We don't track that kind of thing. I'll have to get some good anecdotes from police and fire. Fortunately, with an on-call fire department, a lot of the people that are responding know the town. They know these quirks. They know that, there's 4 Lamprey drives and they all spider all over the place. They've been there. They've figured it out. But certainly anybody coming from another town isn't going to know that. So.
Also, we're growing and people are moving into town who aren't used to these kind of rural attitudes. We're not that far from Johnny Fernal's mother telling the fire department that Sandra's house was on the left down by the big pine tree. We're not that far from that, but we're almost like that when it comes to where we need to be in getting ourselves into a modern system.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that one. Johnny's mother and the pine tree. That's a good one.
Chris, is there any idea how many people would be impacted by this?
No, but it's a lot. If you look at the list, the state's done an inventory for us of all the problem locations, and it is a sizable percentage of the town would have some kind of change.
I'm assuming the newer roads are fine.
The newer roads are much better. The very young roads, we've run those things by the 911 people before we ever numbered them, but that wasn't always the case. I think there's some in the Francesca. What was that neighborhood called when it was built? Dunbarton.
Dunbarton Estates.
Dunbarton Estates. I think there are actually some numbers in there that don't work right, if I remember correctly, from that inventory from the state. Those are now about 20 years old. I think anything younger than that is good. Anything older than that, I think, is generally where the problems are most evident.
And you said most people are not receptive to this?
We haven't really talked much about it, but as you heard, people that have lived through it, it's challenging. People like their address. A lot of people lived at that place for a very long time. They grew up with that number and understandably don't want to deal with the headache of having to change.
It was just such a time sink to try to get everything squared away and chase everything. And, it was a massive time sink when I just had a number change, not the street. And it was a problem.
Yeah, it's not free and easy. That's, ideally we would have done it 20 years ago when there were, 60% as many people in town that would be impacted by it. It just gets harder and affects more and more people the longer you put it off. So totally understand that it's not enjoyable. And
again, within the last 20 years, we've gone from this town not really having an address. My address was in Barrington. Other people in town had Northwood addresses or Raymond addresses or Epping addresses. It was only with the really advocate of 911, maybe 20 years ago, maybe less than that we all got Nottingham addresses. I stayed on Kennett Road, but I wasn't Kennett Road in Barrington anymore. So I had to change all my addresses and everybody that sent everything. And my guests no longer showed up at the Barrington Town Hall wanting to know where I lived, but that was a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, you all may have tales of the FedEx and UPS people having a hard time finding you because they follow, they're used to those same conventions and logics where odds are on one side, evens are on the other, kinds of things.
Sounds like this would be a good year to move into that with as many people getting deliveries or not getting deliveries. They might be more welcoming to this change if that's their.
Yeah, we have had a few people call, looking for our help with Google Maps and UPS and things that they're just in these impossible situations of nobody can find them. And I think this process would probably help some people dramatically in that regard. This is a system-wide change. The state is involved, and the master maps of everything at the state level get very deliberately and intentionally changed at a very specific point in time when you go through this. So I think that's a side benefit. It's not the primary reason, but it certainly wouldn't hurt in the long run to straighten that stuff out. So we suggested this to the board, and none of us at the staff level, and probably nobody at the board, wanted to say, yeah, let's just do it. Let's give it to the voters and let them decide. So I think that's why it stands alone as a warrant article instead of just me taking the blame for it.
I mean, it sounds like it's not even a spending issue. I mean, $10,000 is not a really big ticket. It's more or less, do you want to make everybody go through this stuff? Do you think the benefit outweighs the pain in the ass?
Yeah, I do, because
appeal to the packages getting lost. I think more people would be willing to change it for that reason versus the public safety. I mean, by looking on what they say on Facebook, I think they'd be willing to do it for that.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a way to do it kind of bit by bit, do it one street at a time and ask the people on that street if they really want to do it or not?
The state is willing to do it with us if we broke it up into a couple at a time. A couple halves of the town at a time, but you can't do it. I think to do it street by street could drag it out for years, and we wouldn't necessarily be able to, to get the state to update all of its stuff one road at a time. We couldn't guarantee that would all happen the same way as if we made a deliberate effort with the 911 folks to get it all right. You really need the state bureaucracy on your side to go through something like this. We've tried to do things like change little segments of roads to correct a map somewhere at DOT. We don't have that kind of time. The bureaucracy doesn't pay attention to little things like that. So that would be easier from a consumer point of view, but just not practical from the town government point of view. Anything else on the E911 concept? No. Article 17 is an appropriation to do some road repairs and repave really the entrance to the Southside Cemetery. Roads have been an ongoing concern for the cemetery trustees. This was a project they identified as part of the capital improvement plan process. Sean did some work with his guys out in Southside Cemetery, tweaking some of the roads a little bit. This is a little bit bigger than that. This is from 156 to the gate, essentially, repaving and touching up that entrance.
This is the one where they said that people were kind of making their own way around a damaged part of road and driving over graves.
This is before you get to that part. I think the work that Public Works did this summer solved the worst of those driving over the grave problems.
Yeah, because that's a real problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've driven over to Southside Cemetery, and they added a lot of like gravel and stuff to those pathway roads, you'd say, that go around this, and made it more defined. So they did do a nice job without really spending much money to fix that, to make it look nicer. But the front entranceway, as you drive by on 156, you'll see it. It's all in 100,000 pieces of tar everywhere. And, you know, this is something that we do need to honor and respect the people that came before us that are in that cemetery. So I do find that this money being spent for what we're going to do with it, you know, I mean, this is where people's families are. This is where they're going to be forever. So it's something we should spend money on. That's it.
All right. The last couple are now routine. Article 18 is the tricentennial ETF. That is 2022, so we shouldn't see this article more than one more time after this year. The 300th committee's been busy planning and fundraising. If you haven't got your blanket or your Christmas tree ornament or your hat yet, it's not too late. This fund is now, I'm sorry, I didn't look and see what was in here. I think it's around 40,000 right now. This is the same amount we've been putting in each year for 8 years, I guess. And Article 19 is the invasive species ETF. We use this money, the select board uses a piece of this money each year to support the Lake Coast boat monitoring program at a couple points on Pawtuckaway, and reserves the rest for if we're going to need it for response to a major outbreak of some invasive species. The state has been very supportive thus far in Pawtuckaway, but we don't know how long that's going to last. And we want to be ready to move quickly if we need to protect any of the water bodies in town from invasive species. So that's what this fund is slowly building up to be ready to do.
Do you guys use any of that to control the Japanese knotweed? I've been noticing a lot of that growing around here.
No, this is aimed at water bodies, and the knotweed is mostly roadside. We should have talked knotweed with Sean. They're starting to pay more attention to it at highway, but that's on our radar as well. We don't have a fund for it or anything. This is water only.
Yeah, the PLIA does a lot of removal of the milfoil that's been found in the lake. So that's saved the town a ton of money.
Yeah, we do have a good, really active volunteer group that, and PLIA actually throws money at this just as the town does. So we've got a good thing going there on Pawtuckaway in particular, where the where the heaviest water traffic is. This ETF method, I think, has been a good way for the town to support that effort without taking it on in its entirety, which is what a lot of towns have to do around other ponds and lakes. So that's the sum total of all the warrant articles. If you the chart that I gave you has got a total at the bottom. It's got an estimated revenues number. I'll show you a breakdown of this next week, but I haven't even shown that number to the select board yet. It's our estimate on revenues will be actually down a little bit from 2020 because of some one-time revenue that we got, but not dramatically. That's pretty similar number. And then the tax impacts are all driven by that big property valuation number. That's the post reval number at almost 800 million. It used to be last year, that number was like 624 million. So you were spreading it over a much bigger tax base in dollars than nominal terms than we used to. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I had proposal, I guess, or a question or something about the way the estimated tax impacts are written.
Mhm.
I was actually going to ask you, Chris, something, but I went and I think I found the answer myself. Just kind of see if there was any legal requirement for how those estimated tax impacts are written. And my reading of RSA 32.5 just says that it can contain a notation stating estimated tax impact, and determination of the estimated tax impact is subject to approval by the governing body. So it doesn't necessarily say it has to be dollars per thousands. I think dollars per thousands is not a very wieldy way to show this off to voters. It makes it fairly difficult to kind of figure out the actual tax impact. It tells you the impact on the tax rate, but unless you know your current house valuation and you can multiply 17 cents times however many thousands in your head for each thing. I was wondering if we couldn't move to either replace those or supplement those notations with a tax impact for, say, the median house value in town. So I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's around $300,000. So having, instead of for what, the $10,000 one, it says 13 or 1.3 cents per thousand. It could say like, it's a $5 per household for the average household.
Yeah, that to me makes it more difficult for people to calculate how much it's going to cost them.
Well, you could have both. I think it makes it much easier because I don't think most people do that math. And also it just kind of short circuits the part of your brain that does cost benefit analysis, right? And we hear that at town meeting, people go, with the invasive species one, I think someone argued, it's only a penny. Actually, I think that was the tricentennial one, it's only a penny. But if someone says, $5 per household, okay, now I know $5, is it worth $5? Sure. But hey, it's difficult to come up with those. I'm not saying replace it completely. I think it would be nice to have kind of both things on there.
Yeah, you're right on the reading of the law. I read it the same way. It's up to the governing body. So I think there's probably lots of schools of thought on how to do that. And I agree with you that this is a little clumsy, but it's kind of the way it's always been done. I think I would suggest if John Moore, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think if the budget committee came to a consensus about how they like to see it and wanted to propose something to the select board, I think the select board would listen.
Absolutely.
I don't know that we do it the same way as the school district. I think I remember the school district used to do it as the impact as compared to last year. I don't know if they're still doing it that way, but I would suggest
we looked over the impact statement from them, and they have a number of things. They have like a list of example house values and what that impact would be.
Yeah.
And we talked about increasing those house values because they start at 75,000 and go up to 350 or something. So that's a quite low for what's the average house values now. I don't know. I can kind of take the current wording and do the math on it and write an example and see what it looks like, and then we can talk about it at the next budget committee meeting.
I think it'd be cool if we had it, like I said, if your average, where it said like on this, like, it just put an average. So it's $5 if your house average is around 300,000. That way people know, oh, my house is only 275, so I'm actually going to be less than $5. My house is 400, so it's going to actually be more like 650. If you could have it worded something like that, and like get a medium, that would be actually, I think, very beneficial.
And I think it would really be beneficial if it was the same for town and school.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever methodology you use, as long as it's consistent, I think that would be valuable.
Do you think, Chris? Do you think if I call up Avatar and ask them about, do you think they could give me an average valuation?
We actually got that question at the office today. So you must have had a conversation recently.
Nope.
We've tried to come up with that number and don't have a good statistical answer to that question.
It all depends what you define as a household or a family or a individual taxpayer.
or even by property. There's plenty of, single family homes in town, but there are also seasonal homes, multifamily homes. And I've tried pretty hard to come up with a median home price in town. And I've just failed. And I've actually used a Zillow data number that's pretty good. We don't have an answer of what the median home price is, but you're, 300, 325, something like that. Pick it. It's in that neighborhood.
The school also uses the, dollars per thousand.
The warrant for the warrant articles.
Yeah, for the warrant articles.
Yeah.
Starting from zero or starting from last year?
It's, no, I don't know when they actually started doing it, but I know I'm just looking at last year's town report, and it's been this way for a while, but it is like, tax impact if this article passes is 15 cents per thousand.
So what is it on their operating budget, John? What's that number?
So on their operating budget, which would be Article 2, let's see. All right, so the tax impact, if this article does, okay, sorry, because it's two ways because of the default budget. The estimated tax impact if this article passes is $16.39 per thousand. The tax impact if this article does not pass is $16.31 per thousand.
Okay, so it's a similar methodology then to what we're doing.
Right.
Because our 4 million turns into a $3 tax impact. So similar methodology.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it makes the math easy, per thousand. That's the one thing. It's very simple math.
It's very simple math, but you have to do it for every single item. And you have to know how much your house is worth. I don't think people can do it in their head. And certainly when you discuss something and you say, well, this is a 12.5 cent impact, that sounds like nothing. 12.5 cents. Sure. I just feel like if you had a dollar amount for an average household, I think it would be easier for people to weigh things in their head. But it's something we can discuss at a later meeting.
You still have to know how much your house is or your property is valued at to get your specific tax rate, and then do more math.
Sure,
if you don't include
you
that.
can get in the ballpark if you have an average house, or you have a little tiny house, or you have a mansion.
You can do that with the current rate too. And the current rate, I like it because it's much more accurate. I can look at my tax bill, see that my house is assessed at X, and multiply it by, say, 20 cents. Okay, 20 cents times whatever, $100,000 is $20.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying you have to completely replace it. I think it would be nice. You could have both. You could have the calculate your own number, which we have now, and then you could have the little, for the average household number.
I don't think there is an average household. That's the thing.
Or the table that's similarly shown there with the different house values.
I like the table.
Need to start higher. The table's pretty good.
Table's nice, but the problem is you can't have a table for everything.
No, I know.
Right. Everything you add makes the ballot longer too.
Wonder if it would
Even less.
when we're presenting this at the deliberative or the public hearing, we could explain at the beginning how folks could do the math. For this year anyways, to have them, just take your property value, divide it by 1,000, and just keep that number written down, and then multiply that times the dollar tax impact for each warrant article to do the math. But I remember this being proposed, I think it was 5 years ago or 4 years ago at town meeting. And I can't remember how it was proposed to do and why it didn't end up getting approved, but.
Because it's confusing and people understand the system that they've been using for years, and people who really want to calculate their values know how to do it.
Yeah, I think the the point to be said that some people might not know how to do that, though, Sandra. I mean, I know that we do. We've been working in the budget committee, but you know, again, for simplicity's sake, for the taxpayers, I think, especially if they're, you know, we don't have a town meeting anymore, we're doing the deliberative session, and for folks that don't even attend deliberative, they're sitting at, you know, on voting day in front of a ballot. You know, for them to kind of look at it and do the math in their head is going to.
I mean, whatever gives them an informed, you know, way to make their decision, I think is helpful. I mean, if he's, you know, Tom's probably not the only one that thinks like that in the town, if he's thinking that. So, I mean, something to think about for sure.
Yeah, like I said, it was brought up, it was town meeting, I think it was 5 years ago that somebody had proposed it, and there was a lot of discussion on it, and I can't remember why it didn't end up passing, but.
Couple chat items here came in as well.
Yeah, Jean Reed asked if anybody if there were any petition articles filed yet, and publish a worksheet for calculations.
That's not bad. Not a bad idea.
We've today got from the town clerk 2 certified petition warrant articles. One is to have the town accept as class 5 roads, a whole bunch of private roads. I don't remember the whole list of them. I think there's 6 or 8, all in one article. And then a second one to, I don't remember the exact language, but the effort is to revoke or rescind the road standards policy that the select board approved a month ago.
So for the private road one, are you going to calculate how many millions it'll cost and put that on there?
Not an option for a petition warrant article. The deadline for those is the 12th. So we may see more. The deadline for anything with a bond attached is tomorrow. So if anybody wants to petition us to borrow a bunch of money for anything, those are due tomorrow.
And is it my understanding that you have to have 25 signatures stated on the ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
25 registered voters.
Thanks.
Any other questions on the warrant articles for Chris Sternbale? Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So again, this, along with the town budget, will be presented at the public hearing next week on Thursday. And then the budget committee will do a formal vote after the public hearing on each of the warrant articles, as well as the budget, which is one of the warrant articles. And I have not debriefed with the school board yet on the results of their meeting last night. I don't know if you have yet, Chris, in regards to the deliberative session. I know the the select board had a meeting on Monday to talk about it, and I'm not sure if there's been any conversation with the school board on finalizing that.
Yes, I see Carol's name here.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, yeah. So I'll let Carol speak for the school board, and John is here to speak for the select board too. If you need me, I'll chime in. But.
So yeah, I updated Chris today that we talked about the same options that the select board had talked about on Monday. And I think both boards are in agreement to prefer the in-person deliberative session. And both boards have concerns about holding those at the end of January because of COVID. And the moderator has significant concerns about that as well. And at this point, we don't have the ability to postpone it to a future date. But there's a Senate bill that passed the Senate yesterday that would allow the governing body to make that postponement, and it has to be the the election day, the voting day, has to be postponed to the second Tuesday of either April, May, June, or July. And then you back the deliberative session back from that date. So I think the preference right now, if that bill becomes law and we can do it, would be to try to do a May deliberative and a June voting day, which would allow potentially outdoor venue or outdoor participation at least. But we can't make that decision until that law passes. Or some other variant of that law. So to be determined.
On Monday, we had this discussion, and again, it's going to finish up our discussion on Monday, but the board felt that we want to have the in-person deliberations so people can talk about it. That's the way we've always done it. You know, since we don't have town meeting anymore, you know, I mean, you don't want to take that away. And we have the luxury of being able to postpone without having really any impact to the town for us postponing this. So that's where the board is leaning as of right now, is to postpone this to an early April or May. I would like to see it earlier in April instead of waiting for May, just so we can get it all taken care of and done. And that way we're only putting it out 3 months or so and not, you know, 4 to 6. So
yeah, actually early April deliberative and May vote would allow us to potentially do the July bond sale if the bond passes. If we go to May, June timeframe, we will miss the July bond sale, which means we would have to do short-term financing. And so one of the reasons we don't have the final costs of the bond project is because we were repricing it again today to try to figure out what that cost impact is going to be. But we should have that by tomorrow, I think.
And you know, my feeling, sorry,
Yep.
my feeling,
We were afraid it would be too cold at the beginning of April to do anything outdoors, so that was the concern.
right, mid, again, we haven't figured that exactly, but you know, you can have a 50 degree day in April, but you can also have a 30-degree day in April.
Yep.
So it's really kind of, you know, up in the air, but you know, a 50-degree day is just like another fall day in New England. Put your jacket on, your hat on, and you know, suck it up if you want to be part of the, you know, getting this done. So
You can get
we're not going to be able to please everybody, no matter which decision we make.
we can get some of those big air heater blow things and then blow them into the tent too.
Well, again, that'll spread more of the
Spread more of the COVID. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, we don't want to.
You know, outside, if we could have it, you know, in an area where, you know, the community get there, put some speakers outside, you know, set up the tables, and just have an outdoor meeting, you know, just like what the House, you know, is doing right now in New Hampshire. Their meetings are all outdoors in parking lots. You know, we would like to, you know, that would be ideal to have something like that. That way people, if they want, they can come up and speak, but then everybody can be socially distanced and feeling safe about the process.
I don't know if UNH will let us use their parking lot.
Just have to wear masks.
Hey, may I suggest?
Oh, they weren't all wearing masks.
Carol, what's the timeline? When will we know whether or not that bill passes to law? I mean, I know you can't say for sure.
The Senate
our schedule is coming right up. So
yeah, the Senate fast tracked it, did it in one day. I mean, they waived all their usual rules and passed it in a day. I just looked actually at the beginning of this meeting, and the House, from what I can tell, they haven't scheduled it yet. But they just had their first session yesterday. So
right.
So I at this point, if we were going to do virtual, we'd have to make that decision by basically Monday, I think, because we are already running out of time to do the virtual option. And that's really all our boards can decide right now until there's ability to postpone. And then I think Chris said that the warrants have to be posted by like January 25th. So we'd have to decide before that, obviously. So I don't know. I'm hoping we'll know more by next week.
Might I suggest that if the town is looking for a covered slab, there's one right up on Route 4 that's town property?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Oh, there's no slab in there. It's all dirt floor, isn't it? Like mud or something?
Yeah, it's dirt.
Oh, I thought it was a slab. I haven't been up there, so I don't know. It's covered.
Sort of.
But we obviously want to work together to try to keep both on the same schedule so we have one voting day, because otherwise we'd have to have 2 separate days.
Okay. So we don't know much more. Okay.
No. We're keeping our, the bond hearing and the budget hearings as scheduled. If we do delay it, we may have to redo at least the bond hearing. We may have to have a second one, but it's better than missing a deadline. So.
Yeah, and I don't think we don't have to reschedule the public hearings though for the school budget or the town, no matter how far
I think
out.
that depends on how the bill gets, what the wording of the bill is when it passes. So we might have to, but I think we're just going to go ahead with them next week. And then if we have to do them again, we'll have another one. So, yep.
And that'd be fun.
Very up in the air. We did, there were further changes made based on the feedback of this committee to the design of the addition, and got rid of the towers completely. So that front tower is gone now in the latest version.
And modified the courtyard so that there is still some courtyard there to let air and light and sun and have children out, but it's being used for classroom space for part of it. So school facilities committee really did listen to the budget committee and give a lot of thought to what could be changed in the plan that would be a cost savings. And they will have that finalized report for us next week. But a lot of thought process was given into what was mentioned, and also to the value of not closing it entirely and having windowless spaces for people, but keeping the light and air and also utilizing the space.
The last meeting requested that we get the plans and so forth, and they hadn't been published yet. Was there
That's because we just had to redo them again. So they're getting, I think, finalized. I'm hoping by tomorrow we'll have the final version.
Are you guys going to be able to put the state aid application up on the website?
There was discussion about that today, and yes, that will be coming up on the way. Was there anything else that you asked for? There was the state aid application, but I know we had everything, and I didn't have it today when I was at that meeting. But the state aid application and the plans, we keep changing the plans, so that's why they're not coming to you. But the state aid application was there. I don't think there was anything else that we had asked for. Was there, Tom?
And the cost breakdown. Like he had presented the breakdown and how much the project was going to cost, which I know obviously that's going to change based upon the changes that you've made to the plan. So
right. So that's not done, but definitely the state aid application will definitely be something that can go.
One of the other things that was mentioned in today's facility meeting was that if, because of our change of town meeting deliberative session schedules, we push the ballot vote further out into the calendar, that will cause the start date, the possible start date from beginning of July to sometime later in the summer or possibly fall. That would impact how the building is constructed during the winter and the extra costs that are involved in all the parts of construction that require heating, if heating has to happen for a particular material, that sort of thing. So they're having to build those extra contingencies into the cost breakdown. And so that's a moving target as well.
And it was also, they had done the math that looked at whether or not just putting it forward another year and doing so that it could be done in the spring, that would raise the cost even more because there would be the cost, increased cost of inflation, which is going up pretty steadily and also the no guarantee of the current bond rate, which is excellent.
Yeah, I think we did find out that the January estimated bond rates are still really good, but the problem is that that change of the construction schedule is going to add cost. So
Right, exactly.
if we could do an April and May, April deliberative May vote, then we might
Right.
be able to get
I'm talking about like not doing a year, just pushing the whole thing a year down. And that's where the real cost, where the cost of the whole project escalate. Would be in the summertime and it would be warm, but it would be all the savings for not doing it in the cold would be gone and then some.
Great. So I do encourage everybody again to attend the bond hearing, which is on Wednesday at 6:30 in the school board. I know that I think I saw the notification already go out. So you can go to the school board website for the Zoom link for that. And then one other thing, Carol had emailed me today too to let us know that the final budget that's being presented by the school administration will be in an editable Excel format. And I think, Carol, you had said that's going to be available probably late in the day tomorrow.
Yeah, we have another meeting at 2. It's because we didn't actually vote on it yesterday. So we have another meeting tomorrow, and then I think after that meeting we can send it to you. I think we'll send it in both PDF and Excel.
Okay.
That's great.
With
At least
the,
it gives us the weekend to look at it.
Carol, can you assure them that they do get that the copy of the plans get sent over too? Because that's and the not the plans, but the school report, the aid report, the report that went for financial aid.
Yeah, I don't. I'll just shoot a message tonight because we don't go over that. I don't think.
Can you just
As a
mention it
board
to
of
Susan to make
Yeah.
sure it gets sent? That's, I know you don't do that, but
Yeah.
if you can just mention to Susan that, because we did talk about it today, that it needed to go, and just let them know that it came up again tonight and that we had promised for it to go and it needs to go.
One thing that the budget committee or any recipients of that state aid report need to remember is that application was made for a July 1 deadline last July. And so any changes to anticipated project costs and things like that are not reflected in the amount in that application. We will, as we work with the state capital fund grant people later in the spring, as they make their choices for projects to fund, if we get selected, when that happens, then we will be giving them updates on what we now know about the project costs and things like that. But they're not concerned with that at this point. So it's that application is going to be in what we knew last spring and early summer, which is higher than what we're seeing now.
Right.
Any other questions for Carol? Okay. So next on the agenda is our meeting minutes approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 3rd as amended on 12/29/2020.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Wait, what? The motion is to approve them as they were written a week ago? Is that
Those
the
were
most recent ones we got?
They were amended.
amended 12/29 for those.
Oh yeah, those are the most recent ones. It's the 17th and the 29th that have been kicking around. Okay.
Right.
I'll second that, yeah.
Sandra seconded, so we just,
Oh,
any
sure.
discussion? That's okay.
That was
You
that
wanna-
was the
you wanna
part of the
third that?
discussion.
Yeah.
That was part of the discussion.
All right. So Tom, would you like to to vote to approve those?
Yeah.
Okay. And John Decker, you made the motion.
Yes, I approve.
I approve. Sean Green?
I approve this is just for the 3rd, correct?
Correct.
I approve that, yeah.
Sandra Jones?
Yes.
Michelle King?
Yes.
Michael Keister?
He's muted.
Aye.
Thank you, Michael. Tom LeVay?
Yes.
Carol Martin?
Yes.
John Moran?
Yes.
And Jim Stevens?
Yes.
Perfect. Now moving on,
All right.
the 12/17,
I'll
December
make
17th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of December 17th, 2020 as amended on January 5th, 2021.
I mean, December 17th minutes, right?
Yeah, December 17th minutes. Isn't that what I said?
Not sure.
Yeah, I'll second that. That looks right. That looks like the most recent copy.
Any discussion? Okay, so Tom, you said yes.
Yep.
John Decker,
Yes.
motion. I say yes. Sean Green?
So I wasn't at that one, so I think I abstained, right?
Yep. Sandra Jones?
Yes.
Michelle King?
Yes.
Michael Keister?
Yes.
Tom LeVay?
Yes.
Carol Martin?
Yes.
John Moran?
Yes.
And Jim Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you. And then last but not least,
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of December 29th, 2020 as amended on January 6th, 2021.
Seconded.
any discussion? Okay. Tom?
Yep.
Lukowitz? John Decker?
Yes.
I say yes. Sean Green?
Yes.
Sandra Jones?
Yes.
Michelle King?
Yes.
Michael Keister?
Abstain.
Tom LeVay?
Yes.
Carol Martin?
Yes.
John Moran?
Yes.
And Jim Stevens?
Yes.
Thank you for getting all those through. And, right, I know we had talked about over the past couple meetings, potentially doing the meeting minutes a little bit differently to make it more efficient. Still trying to figure out how to do that. Right now, I think it's either the way we've been doing it, sending Lorraine your edits individually, because again, if we sent it all as a group, that would be considered public communication, a public meeting rather. And the other option, which is what we had done in the past, is we actually read through the minutes at our meetings and then make the amendments in person during the meeting. So again, I think for time's sake, for the next few weeks, we get through the public hearing and the deliberative and do it this way, and possibly for 2022, later next year into 2022, the budget committee can make a decision on how to move forward based upon feedback from the attorney in the state. But right now, I think the easiest thing to do is to continue to do it the way we've been doing it.
I agree.
Yep.
Sorry, Lorraine.
I'm glad to have those 3 sets of minutes behind us.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
caught up. Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Lorraine,
I'm glad Lorraine is doing such a fine job of keeping up with them all. Thank
Yeah.
you.
If you had tonight's done, Lorraine, we could go through them now.
Not.
Okay, so just a reminder again, we've got 2 meetings next week, Tuesday at 6:30 and Thursday at 6:30. Tuesday will be the school and Thursday will be for the town, both public hearings. At those meetings, I know some of you are new. Essentially what we do is we go through each of those budgets and the warrant articles There'll be time for public comment at the end after we read through each section. And then we do vote as a committee. And that vote would potentially be what shows up on the ballot in April, May, June, July, August, whenever the vote is. So, but that's what we'll be doing next week.
And just to be clear, is that part pretty much set in stone as far as the calendar goes, or is this subject to what's going on with potentially moving everything? Because if we move the vote, don't we have to move all the other pieces as well?
So that's the piece, like Carol said, once the House votes, whether or not that legislation changes it. I mean, right now, when you read through the RSA, the public hearing doesn't change based upon the date of the deliberative or the date of the public meeting. So technically the public meeting doesn't have to change unless something changes with the pandemic. But
so we can expect the public hearings to be next week, but the deliberative sessions are what may get moved based on if the vote date changes.
And if the state says, well, if your vote is going to be in May and your public hearing was in January, you need to have another public hearing that's closer to the vote, the deliberative and the vote.
So next week's public hearing obviously is going to be virtual via Zoom. And so we'll go through this kind of the way we always do in our normal format. And then at the end, that's when we can open it up and there could be, who knows how many people on there. That's just going to be kind of a logistical nightmare as far as allowing everybody to say their piece and be heard in a virtual setting, depending on how many people we get to attend. I don't know if there's anything we can do to prep for that, but.
So, you know, I don't, to be honest, I mean, I've been through a few of the public hearings. We haven't had a whole lot of people show up to the public hearings, to be honest with you. It'd be great if a lot did. Sure. But I think from what I've read through from guidelines from the state, and John, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was planning to open it up with sort of the procedures of how the public hearing would work for those that show up from the public. And we just need to provide an opportunity for the public to speak for, 2 to 3 minutes apiece. The goal is to keep the meeting moving. So if we do find as a committee, if somebody is kind of just taking up the time, especially if other people have not had an opportunity to speak, then we need to move it along.
Does that fall on you as the moderator? As far as time, not timing people, but kind of keeping track a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing that,
we have sorry, Carol, one last rookie question here. Is this where we're just reading through this final budget presentation and then they're asking questions, or are we still debating this as well? Are both those things happening, or just the town? Just the town?
No, the committee can ask questions. So as we're reading, I have to read through the budget, the line items for the budget. Well, not every line item, but each section of the budget. Yeah. And then the budget committee can discuss the administration or the school administration. So, Dr. Henson will be there, Chris Souza will be there, the school board representatives. So sometimes the questions from us might be for them to clarify certain increases. Like I know that we're going to have them clarify the increases for the retirement, the contracts, all of those items that are in their budget. And then, it's normal discussion if we need to have additional discussion on that budget.
Okay, thanks. Sorry I cut you off, Carol.
That's okay. I was just going to suggest we have public comment periods for school board meetings, and I don't know all the ins and outs of how the Zoom account is set up, but I would strongly suggest having it set that people are muted and that they have to raise their hand in order to speak, and just, mention or either disable the chat or mention that that's not captured in the meeting minutes, because otherwise, if you're trying to watch the chat and do all those other things, you're not going to be able to keep track of all of it.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to enlist the help of the vice chair, Mr. Decker, to assist with the Zoom administration.
Yeah, well, it would be good if we had do we have a raise hand feature or anything? Other than, no, it's supposed to be like a button you click.
I think there is somewhere down here where you can notify.
I don't even know how to use it in here because I was looking for it earlier.
You have to open the participants tab.
So we all raised our hands.
Okay, so under participant, so that's what we need to probably talk about up front. And if we can mute people, that's something that's set up with the Zoom account, right?
Yeah, so I can change the settings in the budget committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people who call in can raise their hand doing I think it's like *9 or something like that.
I just raised my hand. You see it?
I mean, I could certainly watch the chat as well to see if anything comes up in that,
Yes,
which I
Mr.
think is
Reed, we
probably a
do
good
see
idea.
that you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just went for a test. Did you see where it is?
We can't hear you though.
Yeah, exactly.
We see that your hand is raised, but we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
You're too comfortable away from your mic. All right.
No, I guess he didn't have a question.
I see that I and Gene Reed raised hands.
All right.
Yeah, okay. I found out how to do that.
So then you unraise it yourself. Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
I did.
You can do as the administrator too, John. You'll be able to do that. Is once they've asked the question, you can actually lower their hand for them.
I can.
Well, yeah, you
Or-
can't do it right now, but
Okay.
when I give you those permissions, you'll be able to do that.
All right. I was going to say I had power I didn't know about.
You'll have all the power. Any other questions?
I have just a concern, actually not a concern, but a recommendation that everybody who can, I know we like back-to-back meetings, but Wednesday night, 6:30, the bond hearing is an opportunity to hear a lot of detail about what the plan is going to be. It'll be a little bit of a summary to the budget committee on Thursday night, but the detail will be available, including conversations with the construction manager and the architect who will be in on that meeting in a fairly substantial way. So that's where all the nitty gritty is going to be expressed. So I would recommend that would be the place to go to hear that.
Is that just a talking thing, or does the public have a chance to give input?
It's a public hearing, so they'll have a chance to give input.
I actually wish that hearing was actually before the budget hearing.
It is Wednesday night.
No, it's not.
No.
And I can't remember why there was a reason. I think, is there a selectmen's meeting Monday? So we ran out of days.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they're not.
Because I think the town has a bond hearing on that night too. Or no, it's the zoning board. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Not enough days of the week.
Nope. Okay, so I'll work with you then, John Decker, and figure out the logistics of our meetings for Tuesday and Thursday, get you access to Zoom, and we can work maybe on over the weekend or on Monday to kind of troubleshoot it and make sure that we're both on board.
Sounds good. I mean, I could also log in early on Tuesday or whatever, whatever works.
Yep. Perfect. Well, without any other comment, is there a motion to close our January 7th meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's budget committee meeting.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on adjourning our meeting this evening at 8:30? Tom Bukovic?
Aye.
John Decker?
Aye.
I say aye. Sean Green?
Aye.
Sandra Jones?
Aye.
Michelle King?
Aye.
Michael Keister?
Aye.
Tom LeVay?
Aye, aye, aye.
Just one.
You only get one vote.
Carol Martin?
Yes.
John Moran?
Yep.
And Jim Stevens?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Tuesday.
All right. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.